Hello, and welcome to day one of our biggest event for the year as we bring together our largest gathering of leaders in the Caribbean to discuss many of the issues of corporate governance. I am Kamla Rampersad da Silva, Chief Executive Officer of the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute. We are live on YouTube this morning. The live stream will run for just about 15 minutes or so, and it would also be shared on our social media pages. So welcome to everyone in the room and also those of you who would have joined us via the live stream. In this, our fifth year, as we focus on the critical theme of regenerative capitalism, promoting exceptional governance for small states. We were delighted to have a very successful opening ceremony yesterday, with the opening keynote being delivered by one of the world's most influential voices in corporate governance today, Professor John Elkington, who joined us from his home in the UK. We were so happy and pleased with the quality of yesterday's discussions, and we are excited today as we begin with the opening presentation, which will be delivered in a bit by Cecile Watson from Jamaica. We are heartened by the response to Governance Week by our sponsors and the willingness of over 50 of our business leaders to share their time and expertise as we discuss topics that are critical not only to our lives, but to that of our children and our grandchildren. As you would have seen in our opening sponsors video, we have two gold sponsors, First Citizens Bank and the Massey Group. We have 5 bronze sponsors, Angostura Limited, Republic Bank Limited, the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago, PwC, and GA Rowe and Sons from Belize. Each of our sponsors are bundle members of CCGI, and we appreciate their additional support. So, to those of you here today who are not yet members, we wish to remind you that the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute is a nonprofit membership organization, and we welcome everyone who wishes to join us in our pursuit of improving corporate governance practices in the region. Today, our membership includes persons from Jamaica, Barbados, St. Lucia, Guyana, the British Virgin Islands, St. Martin, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Canada, Trinidad and Tobago, and Belize. There are lots of benefits to being part of a vibrant organization like ours, including benefiting from discounts to our training programs. So if you're not yet a member, do consider joining us and actively contribute to the conversation on how we can improve leadership and governance to achieve sustainable outcomes. Persons may join us as individual members, or your company may choose to pay for bundle membership, which can cover from 6 to 12 members. Today, as we proudly begin our week of conference, this our signature event, Governance Week 2024, which will continue until Friday, June 21st. We have an opening presenter on each day. Today, you will hear from Cecile Watson from Jamaica. Tomorrow, it's Dr. Dion Chamberlain Miranda from Belize. On Wednesday, we have Jason Farley from Guyana. On Thursday, it's Aile McGlynn from Curacao, and Derek Rajak from Trinidad and Tobago ends off the discussion on Friday. Each day, we have an entirely different focus on sectors and governance. So you can expect a week of tremendous learning and insights from our opening speakers, as well as the 50+ panelists who will follow over the 5 days. You should all have received detailed agendas from the week first, but if you have not done so, please email us at info@caribbeangovernance.org and we would ensure to send it to you. So I would also like to briefly share on some of our upcoming events and workshops. On Monday, July 8th, we bring our Role of the Board series to an end with Dr. Chris Pierce from the UK, who will be taking us through how a good board is run. If you missed the other workshops in the series, you can still register for this one and get a thorough understanding of board dynamics. Dr. Pierce brings global experience to us and is very generous in answering questions that are posed during the workshop. So don't miss this opportunity to interact with him. Then on Tuesday, July 9th, Lara Quantrell Thomas will be conducting a workshop on building executive presence in the boardroom. This would be quite valuable for young executives who have joined boards and even those aspiring to be directors. We have 2 workshops for deepening your understanding of financials. Howard Dutton will conduct financial stewardship for non-finance directors on Wednesday, July 17th, and Janita John from South Africa will conduct a 3-day workshop on identifying fraud, red flags in financial statements in early September. All of these are online, so you can easily register to participate. Also, most of you will know by now, we are planning an exciting week of activities in Guyana from November 19th to 23rd this year. There will also be 2 physical workshops there. The first is on insurance and risk on Tuesday, November 19th. The second runs for 2 days, Wednesday, November 20th and Thursday, November 21st on governance and compliance. Both of these workshops will be facilitated by Claire Gomez-Miller. And the second workshop will include a simulation from Harvard Business Publishing, which I will help facilitate. On Friday, we will host a panel discussion on effective board papers geared specifically to our corporate secretaries network. But I would advise that all persons involved in the boardroom should also join to learn on effective board papers. After which you can all join us. We would have a sign-in ceremony with Professor Bob Garrett before we get into some unique Guyana games around a bonfire. The week then culminates with a governance dinner and end-of-year networking event on Saturday, November 23rd, when the opening keynote will be delivered by our beloved Professor Bob Garrett, CCGI's Global Ambassador. All of these events will be held at Splashman's Resort, which is a beautiful and unique facility built around a man-made lake in Georgetown. Registration is already open. We are offering special packages for room and meals for the weekend and are given first preference to previous participants of our end-of-year event. Space at Splashman's is extremely limited, so we encourage persons to please book your spaces before the end of July, after which we will open it up to everyone for registration. Now, as we come to today's event, I would like to make a few brief housekeeping announcements. I know the majority of you are previous participants of CCGI events, but it's important for us to remind persons that we need you to have your name correctly captured on your screen. And this is because we're in a virtual room together, which allows each of us access to engage freely with other participants. So we would like to ensure that everyone is easily identifiable. If we cannot identify who you are, you will be removed from the room. Also, we ask everyone to please keep their microphones on mute throughout the session. During the Q&A section, which will follow the presentation from Cecile and later from the panel discussions, if you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand using the icon at the bottom of your screen. You will need to unmute yourself, and we ask that you please press the mute icon again as soon as you are done to minimize any disruptive noises in your background. You may also make comments or ask questions in the chat feature at any time during the session. Finally, we will put up a survey link towards the end of the session, and we would appreciate if you take 2 minutes and give us your feedback, please. This is really important to us as it is instrumental in how we plan and execute our events. So to set the context for this week's discussions, I would like to share that in the book, Why Nations Fail, it is argued that the violence and bloodshed in our history has embedded itself into the psyche of our people, contributing to the challenges faced over the last few generations. Today, it manifests in our governance structures and practices and is exhibited in high levels of crime and corruption, weak government institutions, and even poor corporate behavior. The Smart States Club, a book written by former president of Armenia, published in January of 2024, on how small states can not just change their destiny, but affect the world, offers a shining light for the future. In this book, Mr. Amen Sarkisian gives a personal account of his interaction with leaders of several of these small countries, which have dealt with similar adversity, but which currently prosper because of choices made by their leaders to make a positive difference. These include Botswana in Africa, Ireland in Europe, and Qatar in the Middle East, as well as his country of Armenia, which had been under Russian control as part of the USSR. Each of these have demonstrated how possible it is to emerge victorious despite adversity and limiting beliefs, which is another way to say mental slavery. Today, our world requires us to be innovative, creative, and brave, but more so to act with integrity and honor in bringing the kinds of changes so necessary to save the planet and make people's lives better. As we focus on our theme of regenerative capitalism, promoting exceptional governance for small states, we are encouraged to think about how each of us can individually, positively impact our world. For Governance Week 2024, our challenge is to address how we can take charge of our destiny and build a bright future that embraces the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. This, after all, is the basis of a capitalism that does not exploit, but seeks profitable organizations that utilizes and restores resources, leaving it for future generations. So, having set the context, it is now my absolute pleasure to invite our key speaker for this morning. And I would remind you, after Cecile has done her presentation and we end at 12:30 today, we go to a half-hour break before we begin our panel discussions which follow. So I will begin now with my introduction of Cecile. Cecile Watson is a distinguished governance professional and the founder and CEO of BoardVox, a brand of Shredwiz Limited, an information security and governance company. With a mission to build better boards and enhance governance in the Caribbean, Cecile leverages her extensive experience to support governments, companies, and individuals in maintaining effective boards and safeguarding their information. Her credentials include certified financial education instructor, certified in data protection, and certified sustainability practitioner, along with training by the Commonwealth Association of Corporate Governance. Cecile's academic background includes a first-class honors degree in engineering and accolades such as the Canadian Commonwealth Scholarship and the University of Western Ontario Scholarship Award for Excellence. There's a lot more that we can say about Cecile, but her full bio is in the agenda that was sent to you earlier. So now I would like to pause there and invite Cecile to offer us her presentation for today. Cecile, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much for that warm welcome. It is a pleasure for me to be here. I am going to jump right into it because I think my presentation covers a little bit of my introduction as well in terms of why I get to do this. As you spoke, Kamla, I wrote down a couple words that you use. You said act innovatively and creatively. You talked about promoting exceptional governance. You talk about individually positively impacting our world, and you spoke also about the bright future that we are hoping for. And I think all of those really touch on the essence of what good governance delivers. So I'm going to jump right in. Thank you all for joining me here today. It's great to see my Jamaican palsies online. Just to note, Kamla introduced me as being from Jamaica, but you will tell by my accent that I am really from Barbados. I live in Jamaica. So Jamaica has been my home for a long time though. So let's begin right away. Would you tell me please which way I ought to go from here? That depends a good deal on where you want to get to. I don't much care where.
Cecile, may I interrupt you just for 1 second to say that
Yes.
the way in which we are seeing your presentation
Uh-huh.
in your presentation as a box within a box. I'm not sure why that may be. Would you like to stop it and then share again?
Are you, so right now you're saying a box inside of a box.
And
I
then yes,
think
then
you're
we're seeing
sharing the wrong screen.
Okay, all right, let's stop
Using
there.
presentation mode.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
let's see if we can get out of there.
yeah. So
Um,
just stop share and then reshare again.
is that good?
This much better, yes.
Okay, good.
Still seeing another box below though. Amelia, is that something that
Could you go full screen instead for the
Okay.
presentation?
All right, good
Much-
now?
That's
Yes.
perfect.
Okay, great, all right, so I'm gonna start back over my story
sure.
because it's an important part of the flow, and I'm sorry for that tech mix up there. Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here? That depends a good deal on where you want to get to. I don't much care where. Then it doesn't matter which way you go, so long as I get somewhere. I think by now you remember this story from Alice in Wonderland. Or you're sure to do that, said the cat, if you only walk long enough. And I like to use this extract when I talk about strategy because it really sets the context for if you don't know where we're going, any road can take us there. And in the world of governance and board's role in particular, we need to know where we're going. So we need a strategy. And that's what I'm going to posit here today. Just a little bit about my background further to what Kamla says. I come to be in this place as a governance practitioner, I call myself, because I work on boards, I serve boards, and I have clients who are boards. And it has really impacted on me the need to really effective governance because we have a lot of excellent professionals who are serving on board, but the governance discipline is very exacting and there's not as much breadth of an understanding of what is encapsulated there. So that brought me to this role. And I like to talk about why I care about this so much. As you will see on the far left, at the top there, that's my mother and me. And my mother was a victim of the CLECO disaster that you're probably all aware of. A pensioner who expected that having spent some time at Shell as an HR professional, she would have been able to be assured of monthly pensions and then CLECO. And then in my case, I've had the chance to see upfront and close and personal bad boards. So I say failures in corporate governance invariably touch lives of ordinary people, just like you and me, and our loved ones too. So just working through this governance thing is really a personal thing for me. And what I want you to know today is why you should care is that one bad apple does, you know what, right? And so it's incumbent as we work on boards to not be that bad apple, but also to recognize when it is there and call that to account. So the flow of my presentation today is I'm going to start by giving you the context for change, why we need to change, how we do things now, the strategy imperative, why it flows from that, and then we'll talk about creating your board strategy. So to begin with, in highlighting the consequences of governance failure, we're seeking here to set the stage for why the board strategy is crucial. So I believe for most of us, working on boards is probably like the top left. You know, we sometimes feel as though we're spinning top in mud. And really we want that effortless flow, that's what we aspire to. But somehow we are not able to get there like we want to. And yet the real world needs for us to get there. There's a real world out there at the end of our decisions. And it's important that we're in a position to deliver what it is expecting of us. But how do we really know we have a problem that is worth fixing? In that regard, I'm going to take you through the story of Theranos. Some of you may have heard about Theranos. It was quite a scandal coming back from 2015. And it involved a young lady called Elizabeth Holmes who started this company with great expectations. She wanted to move from she felt she had a solution that dealt with reducing the amount of blood you had to take from any patient in order to do tests. So she had come up with this idea that she could use a drop of blood, and that would make the difference because she could get everything she needed from that. She was able to attract a lot of attention. She rose to be Forbes #1 on the top of Forbes young startups. I think that's what it was. She was a billionaire and she was very highly celebrated. But let's look at the oversight that happened for her. By 2014, she had recruited a high-profile board. And as we know, the board is very important in terms of attracting funding. Then she went on. By July 2015, the FDA had approved for her the one-drop technology for her blood. And so that was getting her going. But by October 2015, the report started to come through, and the Wall Street Journal started doing some investigative reporting, which was triggered by a whistleblower about the practices that were happening in Theranos. And by 2018, the company had been closed. Ms. Holmes and her partner, who was a former COO, was incarcerated, or they were charged for defrauding their investors, etc. What happened here is that it was more than just Ms. Holmes who was impacted. The technology she provided to the market, there was one woman who thought she was going to have a miscarriage, but she really had a perfect baby. Another man got results that he had late-stage prostate cancer. That was not so. And a young woman was told she had HIV. And so that created a lot of, as you can imagine, emotional stress by virtue of this technology that was put out there as to be credible. And then over 800 employees lost their jobs. Now, why did